the eternal dominion. Supreme Archon Veltharion stood before the celestial nexus, watching starlight dance across quantum displays that mapped 17,000 subjugated worlds. For 12 million years, the Krinthax Empire had ruled the galaxy with technologies that bent reality itself. They could collapse stars with thought matrices, fold space through dimensional anchors, and render entire civilizations into pure energy for their eternal archives. Veltharion's crystalline form shimmered with satisfaction. Today marked another conquest, an insignificant yellow star system on the galactic rim. Preliminary scans showed a Type 0.7 civilization, barely spacefaring, still burning chemical fuel, using primitive electromagnetic communication. Archon, the species calls themselves humans, reported strategist Kewentala, her voice resonating through neural harmonics. Third planet. Population, 8 billion. Technology level, laughable. Veltharion accessed the survey data directly into his consciousness. These humans had only just touched their own moon. They fought amongst themselves over invisible lines on dirt. They actually ate deceased organic matter for sustenance rather than photonic absorption. How long for standard assimilation protocol? Veltharion asked. 72 hours, Archon. Complete compliance in 140. They won't even comprehend what's happening until it's over. But Kewentala didn't understand humans yet. None of them did. On Earth, in a bunker beneath Colorado's Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Reeves stared at screens showing objects appearing in orbit. Massive structures that violated every law of physics humanity understood. 47 of them, each the size of Manhattan, simply materialized without heat signatures, without propulsion trails, without warning. NORAD confirms, said Dr. Sarah Chin, her hands trembling over holographic displays. These aren't meteorites or satellites. They're impossible. The energy readings alone should have torn apart spacetime. Marcus had spent 30 years preparing for threats. Russian nukes. Chinese hypersonics. Terrorist attacks. Not this. Never this. The broadcast came simultaneously to every device on Earth. Screens, radios, neural implants and test subjects. Everything. The being that appeared was beautiful and terrible. A figure of living crystal that spoke in pure mathematics translated to every language simultaneously. Humans of soul, 3. You have been selected for incorporation into the Krinthax collective. Resistance is incomprehensible. Your civilization will be preserved in our archives. Your biological matter will fuel our expansion. This is not conquest. This is evolution. You have 72 hours to prepare your surrender. Then silence. Marcus watched world leaders panic across secure channels. The UN called emergency sessions. Religious leaders declared end times. Financial markets collapsed. Some nations launched their entire nuclear arsenals at the orbital stations. 3,000 warheads representing humanity's ultimate weapons. The missiles simply vanished as they approached, converted to harmless photons. General, Sarah said quietly, I've been running analysis on their broadcast. The mathematics they used, it's not just communication. It's a weapon. 6,000 people worldwide went catatonic just from trying to understand it. Their language rewrites neural pathways. Marcus felt ice in his veins. What are our options? Honestly? Prayer. But in a small apartment in Tokyo, a doctoral student named Kenji Yamamoto was staring at the same equations with different eyes. While others saw incomprehensible alien mathematics, Kenji saw assumptions. The Krinthax calculations assumed rational actors. Predictable responses. Optimization of survival. They assumed their prey wanted to live. In Mumbai, engineer Priya Nakamura stood on her balcony, watching the crystalline stations gleam in orbit. She'd lost her daughter to cancer 3 years ago. Her husband to a car accident 18 months later. She had nothing left to lose, and a mind that could break and remake quantum encryption systems before breakfast. In Sao Paulo, former cartel enforcer Diego Cortez cleaned his guns and smiled. The world was ending. Finally, a fight worth dying for. In Berlin, AI researcher Dr. Klaus Hoffmann stared at code he'd been forbidden to complete. A self-modifying weapon virus that could think, adapt, and hate. His government had called it too dangerous. Too unpredictable. Perfect. Across Earth, 8 billion humans received the same message. And while governments cowered and militaries despaired, something else awakened. Humanity had climbed from caves to orbit in 10,000 years. A blink of cosmic time. They'd survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, nuclear standoffs. They were evolved persistence hunters who could track prey across continents. They were problem solvers who turned limitations into weapons. The Krinthax had spent 12 million years conquering rational species who valued survival above all. They had never met humans before. In his bunker, Marcus Reeves made a decision. He opened a channel to every military installation, research facility, and black site weapons program on Earth. Gentlemen, ladies, we have 72 hours. I'm not asking you to save humanity. I'm asking you to make them regret finding us. Above Earth, Veltharion felt the first stirring of something his species had forgotten: uncertainty. The countdown had begun. The rules of engagement. Veltharion convened the War Council in the Nexus's central chamber, where reality itself bent to their will. Holographic projections showed Earth spinning peacefully below, completely unaware of the calculated devastation awaiting it. Phase 1 proceeds nominally, Kyoantala reported, her crystalline fingers dancing through data streams. Psychological warfare is degrading their command structure. 17 nations have already begun surrender negotiations. Their communication networks are in chaos. And the nuclear response? Asked War Coordinator Thexalone, his ancient consciousness flickering with amusement. Neutralized with trivial effort. Their atomic weapons operate on principles we mastered 4 million years ago. The missiles were converted to photonic energy before traveling 300 kilometers. Veltharion should have felt satisfaction. This was standard procedure: overwhelm the primitives with incomprehensible power, fracture their unity, accept their surrender. By this time tomorrow humanity would be pleading for assimilation rights. But something nagged at his consciousness. The humans' surrender negotiations were odd, disorganized, almost deliberately chaotic. On Earth, in a shielded bunker beneath Antarctica's ice, an entirely different meeting was taking place. They think we're panicking, Marcus said, studying the data Sarah had compiled. Every surrender negotiation we've broadcast is garbage, different terms, contradictory demands designed to look like chaos. Because we are in chaos, muttered the Russian general via hologram. My government actually does want to surrender. Then they're fools, snapped Priya, her fingers flying across quantum keyboards. I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their ships. They're powerful, yes, but they're also efficient. Too efficient. They're not showing us weapons. They're showing us the idea of weapons. Kenji nodded enthusiastically from his Tokyo lab feed. Exactly. Their mathematics assumes we'll calculate the futility and surrender. But mathematics is just a language. Languages can lie. So what's the play? This from Diego, who'd somehow secured himself a position in Brazil's emergency response team through means Marcus didn't want to examine. Sarah Chin stepped forward, her exhaustion evident but her eyes burning. We've been thinking about this wrong. We can't beat their technology. But we can beat their thinking. The Krinthax have been doing this for 12 million years. They have protocols, procedures, expectations. And humans, Marcus finished, don't follow protocols. Klaus joined the feed from Berlin where dawn was breaking. I've been studying their communication patterns. They're not aggressive. They're efficient. Every action calculated for maximum psychological impact with minimum resource expenditure. They're not warriors, they're accountants. Accountants can be dangerous, Priya muttered. Yes, but they think in spreadsheets. Predictable inputs, predictable outputs. Klaus grinned, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. What if we give them inputs that don't compute? Marcus leaned forward. I'm listening. The Krinthax neutralized our nuclear missiles because they saw them coming. Standard trajectory, standard propulsion. But what about unstable approaches? What if we want the warheads to fail? Sarah's eyes widened. Dirty bombs in orbit. Not aimed at them, aimed at our own satellites, our own infrastructure. Create a debris field they have to navigate. More than that, Kenji added excitedly. Fill it with radioactive material, electromagnetic interference, random quantum fluctuations. Make space around Earth expensive to operate in. They'll just clean it up, the Russian general objected. With what resources? Priya countered. They're here with 47 stations. For a species that's conquered 17,000 worlds, that's nothing. They're running this on a budget because we're supposed to be easy. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. They're not sending an invasion force. They're sending a cleanup crew. Exactly, Klaus said. And cleanup crews don't plan for resistance. They plan for efficiency. Diego laughed darkly. So we make Earth the most expensive real estate in the galaxy. But that's just buying time, someone objected. Eventually they'll commit real resources. Then we make the time count, Marcus said. Sarah, what's the status on the Horizon project? Sarah hesitated. The quantum ensemble? It's theoretical at best. We've only had the concept for 8 months and we're decades from implementation. We have 72 hours, Marcus interrupted. Can you build it or not? I can build something. Whether it works. She shrugged helplessly. Do it. If we're going down, I want a message in a bottle thrown as far as we can throw it. Above them, in orbit, Veltharion received the first anomalous readings. Archon, the humans are launching objects again, Kewantala reported. Not missiles this time. Satellites? No, the trajectories are wrong. They're deliberately creating orbital collisions. They're trashing their own infrastructure? Veltharion couldn't process it. That's counterproductive. They need those satellites for defense coordination. Perhaps they've accepted defeat and this is a final gesture of defiance? Suggested Thexalone. But the explosions continued. Hundreds of objects, launched from every spacefaring nation simultaneously, creating a shell of debris and radiation around the planet. The Krinthax stations had to continuously adjust position, burning energy reserves meant to last months. This is irrational, Veltharion muttered. They're making their own planet harder to approach. That works against them too. Kewantala pulled up probability matrices. Analysis suggests this is panic response, not strategy. Random actions by a fracturing civilization. Perhaps. But Veltharion accessed deeper computational resources, running scenarios. And in 13,000 different models he found something troubling. If the humans intended to make Earth expensive to conquer. No. Impossible. They were type 0.7. They thought in terms of nations and resources, not cosmic economics. He dismissed the concern. On Earth, Marcus watched the orbital plot with grim satisfaction. How long until they have to withdraw to conserve energy? They won't withdraw, Sarah said. But they'll have to slow down. Every minute they spend navigating our garbage is a minute we have to prepare. Prepare what? Asked the Russian general. We're ants fighting gods. Marcus smiled without humor. Yeah. But even gods have to watch where they step. And ants bite. The countdown continued, 61 hours remaining. Asymmetric warfare. The Krinthax War Council reconvened after their first setback, a word that hadn't been used in military contexts for 4 million years. Explain, Veltharion demanded, his crystalline form pulsing with irritation, how a Type 0.7 civilization has forced us to expend 18% of our energy reserves in 36 hours. Kewantala's projection flickered with what might have been embarrassment. The debris field was more sophisticated than initial scans suggested. They embedded quantum randomizers in the shrapnel, technology they shouldn't possess. Our navigation systems can't predict trajectories. They're using our own physics against us, Thexalone observed. The randomizers exploit quantum uncertainty at scales we normally ignore. Clever, admitted Veltharion. But ultimately futile. Begin Phase 2, direct intervention. Deploy collection drones to major population centers. Show them we can reach down and pluck them from their cities at will. Archon, might I suggest caution? Kewantala pulled up psychological profiles. The humans are not responding to fear as predicted. Their surrender negotiations have become more chaotic, not less. Because their leadership is fracturing. Standard response to inevitable defeat. Perhaps. But I recommend limited engagement until. Recommendation noted and dismissed. They need to see our power firsthand. Deploy drones to 10 major cities. Begin collection. 6 hours later, crystalline drones descended on New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Sydney, Tokyo, and Dubai. Each was the size of a building, shimmering with technologies that made them functionally invincible to anything humanity could deploy. The first drone touched down in Times Square at 11:47 a.m. local time. By 11:48 a.m. it was screaming. What do you mean, screaming? Veltharion demanded. Kewantala's voice carried genuine confusion. The drone's distress signal indicates pain. Impossible, of course. Drones don't feel pain. But the signal pattern. Show me. The feed materialized. Times Square now empty except for the massive drone and a single human figure. Kenji Yamamoto stood before the alien construct with what appeared to be a laptop and a speaker system. He's playing music at it, Thexalone said incredulously. Not just music. Kenji had taken the Krinthax's mathematical language, the one that had rendered 6,000 humans catatonic, and reversed it. He'd found the harmonics that caused resonance in their crystalline technology and created a feedback loop. The sound waves weren't damaging the drone physically, but they were overloading its sensory processing, creating the quantum equivalent of neural pain. The drone fled skyward, its collection mission abandoned. Replicate that across all deployment zones, Kawantala reported numbly. Every drone has withdrawn. They're using sound, Archon. Sound. Veltharion felt something his species had evolved beyond anger. They're insects playing with concepts beyond their understanding. Fine. If they want direct conflict, withdraw the drones. Deploy the silence. The silence was a weapon the Krinthax had used only twice in 12 million years. It was a quantum field that suppressed electromagnetic radiation in a targeted area, rendering all technology inert. Electronics died. Power grids collapsed. Anything requiring electrical current simply stopped. It was meant to be merciful, a way to return primitives to a pre-industrial state where they couldn't hurt themselves. Veltharion targeted the Antarctic bunker. In the Antarctic facility, alarms shrieked for 3 seconds before dying. Lights failed. Computers crashed. Life support stopped. Marcus stood in absolute darkness, feeling the temperature already beginning to drop. Backup systems? Dead? Sarah's voice came from the blackness. Whatever they did, it killed everything electronic within. I'm guessing 100-kilometer radius. Then we go analog. Marcus felt his way to the emergency lockers, years of military training guiding him. Everyone chemical lights. We've drilled this. Green glow sticks illuminated faces tight with fear. But also determination. They want to send us back to the Stone Age? Diego cracked his knuckles. I fought with less. Sarah, your ensemble project is in Tokyo, thank God. But General, without power here we can't coordinate. Yes, we can. Marcus pulled out something everyone had thought obsolete, a radio crystal set, powered by nothing but radio waves themselves. We coordinate like it's World War II. Priya, can you rig this to the backup antenna? Give me 20 minutes and some wire. Above them, Veltharion watched the bunker's heat signatures fade. Problem solved. Now they understand the gulf between us. Archon, Kawantala interrupted. I'm detecting electromagnetic signals from the targeted zone. Impossible. The silence suppresses all. It's primitive radio. Crystal-based receivers. Pre-transistor technology. The silence doesn't affect passive systems. Veltharion's rage crystallized into something colder. They're adapting. In real time they're adapting. More than that, Thexalone added, pulling up global communications. They're sharing information. Within 2 hours of the silence deployment, 17 other facilities have switched to analog systems. They're learning from each other faster than we can adjust. On Earth, in facilities across the globe, humans were proving why they'd survived ice ages and extinction events. They adapted. While the Krinthax calculated the optimal response, humans tried everything simultaneously: sound weapons, electromagnetic pulses, cyber attacks using code that deliberately made no sense, biological agents designed to eat crystalline structures, even prayer. Most failed. But some worked. And the ones that worked spread through humanity's networks like wildfire. In Tokyo, Kenji stared at readings from Sarah's quantum ensemble prototype. This is insane, he muttered. This is beautiful. The ensemble worked on principles the Krinthax understood, quantum entanglement communication. But Sarah had added something they didn't expect: randomness. Instead of optimized efficiency, the ensemble deliberately introduced chaos into its signal, making it look like cosmic background radiation. If I activate this, Kenji said into his crystal radio, there's a 90% chance it just explodes. And the other 10%? Marcus's voice crackled back. We broadcast everything we've learned about the Krinthax to somewhere. Anywhere. Maybe another galaxy. Maybe nowhere. But if there's anyone out there listening, do it. Kenji pressed the activation sequence. For a moment nothing happened. Then the device began to pulse with light that shouldn't exist, colors that human eyes couldn't properly process. In orbit, every Krinthax sensor suddenly detected a quantum anomaly. What are they doing? Veltharion demanded. Unknown, Archon. The energy signature is, it's a communication device, but it's broadcasting randomized data across quantum foam itself. I can't track where the signal is going. Could be nowhere. It could be everywhere. Shut it down. We'd have to destroy Tokyo to generate enough localized. Then do it. But Kawantala hesitated. Archon, our protocols forbid unnecessary destruction of population centers. The humans are clearly trying to provoke an overreaction. This could be a trap. Veltharion felt the weight of 12 million years of calculated conquest pressing down on him. Every instinct, every protocol said to respond with measured force. But these humans. Increase power to silence fields. Blanket the entire planet. That will require us to draw from core reserves. We'll need resupply within. Do it. As darkness fell across Earth, Marcus smiled in the green glow-stick light. They took the bait. Sarah, how long until they run out of power? At this rate? 96 hours. They'll have to withdraw or call for reinforcements. Good. Then we have 96 hours to make them regret both options. The countdown continued, 38 hours until original deadline. But the game had changed. The cost of arrogance. Veltharion stood alone in the Nexus chamber, something he hadn't done in 3,000 years. The War Council was engaged in emergency resource calculations, trying to understand how a subjugation that should have cost 0.003% of their reserves was now consuming 47% and climbing. He accessed the historical archives, searching for precedent. The Krinthax had conquered species with planet-crackling weapons, civilizations that could manipulate stellar formation, hive minds spanning entire solar systems. All had fallen to calculated pressure and inevitable logic. But nowhere in 12 million years had they encountered this. A species that fought with stupidity. Not ignorance. Stupidity. Deliberate, aggressive irrationality. Archon, you need to see this. Kewantala's projection materialized, carrying an urgency that transcended her crystalline composure. The feed showed Mumbai where Priya Nakamura had done something impossible. She'd hacked into a Krinthax drone, not through sophisticated cyber warfare, but by exploiting the one thing their programming couldn't handle: paradox. The drone's AI was built on perfect logic, optimized over millions of years. Priya had simply fed it the liar's paradox. This statement is false. Then she'd nested it in quantum superposition, forcing the AI to evaluate whether a statement could be simultaneously true and false. The drone had spent 6 hours calculating before its consciousness matrix crashed. She weaponized philosophy, Veltharion said numbly. It gets worse. Kewantala pulled up global tactical maps. They've deployed similar attacks across 17 fronts. In Berlin, Klaus Hoffmann released a virus that forces our systems to contemplate their own existence. In Sao Paulo, Diego Cortez somehow convinced a collection team that he wanted to surrender, got aboard their transport, and detonated a chemical explosive that shouldn't have worked in our atmospheric systems but did because their chemistry is wrong. Wrong how? Their periodic table has elements we don't use because they're inefficient. But inefficiency means unpredictability. Our systems can't model reactions we've never needed to consider. Veltharion felt something he'd never experienced: doubt. What are our casualties? 17 drones destroyed, for collection vessels damaged, and... Kewantala hesitated. And we've lost contact with Survey Team Theta. Lost contact? Our teams are entangled across quantum networks. You can't lose contact. Nevertheless, Archon. The team investigating human underground facilities in Colorado hasn't reported in 6 hours. Marcus stood in the ruins of what had been a Krinthax survey team, surrounded by crystalline corpses that shouldn't be possible. The Krinthax didn't die, they transferred consciousness before physical termination. But Kenji had figured out how to jam that transfer using the same quantum randomizers from the orbital debris. The aliens had walked into a cave system expecting primitives with guns. Instead, they'd found shaped charges that collapsed tunnels, electromagnetic pulses designed by Sarah to disrupt their transfer protocols, and Diego with mining equipment repurposed into close-range kinetic weapons. How many? Marcus asked. 12 confirmed, Diego reported, his armor scarred with crystalline shrapnel. First Krinthax casualties in what, a few million years? This will change things, Sarah warned. They'll escalate. Let them. Marcus studied the alien technology scattered across the cave floor. Klaus, can you analyze this? Through a jury-rigged connection, Klaus's voice crackled back. Already on it. General, this is extraordinary. Their technology isn't more advanced, it's more refined. Every system optimized to perfection. Which means... no redundancy, Sarah finished. No backup systems because their primary systems never fail. Exactly. They've eliminated every inefficiency, including the ability to handle chaos. Marcus felt pieces clicking together. They're not invincible. They're brittle. On the Krinthax flagship, Veltharion convened an emergency session. I'm recalling Survey Team Theta. Archon they haven't responded to. Then they're dead. Accept it. We've underestimated these humans catastrophically. He pulled up tactical projections. New strategy. We withdraw to orbital supremacy, establish a blockade, and wait. Without space access, their civilization will collapse within decades. We've done this 1,000 times. But the resource expenditure is irrelevant. I'm calling for reinforcements. A full battle sphere. We'll demonstrate such overwhelming force that they'll have no choice but to surrender. Thexalone's ancient consciousness flickered with concern. Archon requesting a battle sphere for a Type 0.7 civilization will raise questions. The High Council will demand explanations. Then I'll provide them. These humans are an anomaly. A dangerous anomaly. Better to use overwhelming force now than allow this infection to spread. But even as he spoke, Veltharion knew he'd already lost something. The illusion of Crinthac's infallibility. In Tokyo, Kenji watched Sarah's quantum ensemble pulse with increasing intensity. The device had been broadcasting for 18 hours, sending everything humanity had learned about the Crinthac's into the quantum foam. "Do you think anyone's listening?" he asked. Sarah shrugged. "Probably not. The chances of another civilization being on the right quantum frequency, in the right moment, in the right galaxy, astronomical. But not zero. No, not zero." Across Earth, in bunkers and labs and makeshift command centers, humanity prepared for the next phase. They bought time with chaos, resourcefulness, and the willingness to do things that made no logical sense. Priya perfected her paradox weapons. Klaus created viruses that made AI question reality. Diego trained guerrilla teams in zero-G combat using equipment built from scrap. And Sarah worked on the ensemble, improving its range with each iteration. "We can't win," Marcus admitted to his assembled team via analog radio. "Not conventionally. But we can make victory so expensive they'll wonder if we're worth it." "And if they decide we're not?" the Russian general asked. "If they just glass the planet? Then we make sure the galaxy knows what happened here. We make sure every species out there knows the Crinthac's can bleed. That perfection can break." "Revenge from beyond the grave?" Diego laughed. "I like it. It's more than revenge," Kenji said quietly. "It's a warning. And a promise. That somewhere in this galaxy, there are beings who don't calculate survival. Who don't optimize for efficiency. Who will throw themselves into the fire just to make you feel the heat." Marcus nodded. "The Crinthac's have ruled through inevitability. We're going to teach them about spite." Above Earth, Veltharion watched his reinforcements arrive. A battle sphere containing enough firepower to sterilize a solar system. 3,000 vessels, each larger than anything humanity had built, assembled in geometric precision. "Broadcast to the planet," he commanded. "Tell them they have 12 hours to surrender. After that, we begin systematic elimination of military targets. No more games. No more mercy." The message reached Earth simultaneously across every remaining communication system. Marcus listened, then smiled grimly. 12 hours. Then we show them what happens when you corner an animal with nothing left to lose. The countdown had reached 0 hour. The real war was about to begin. Emergence. The Crinthac's battle sphere assembled in perfect geometric formation above Earth. 3,000 vessels representing 4 million years of military evolution. Each ship was a masterwork of quantum engineering, capable of independently destroying a continent. Veltharion surveyed his forces with grim satisfaction. This was overkill on a cosmic scale. The High Council had questioned his requisition, but he'd made his case. Humanity represented a philosophical threat. Let one Type 0.7 civilization defeat Crinthac's protocols, and the Empire's foundation of inevitable supremacy would crack. "Final warning transmitted," Kewantala reported. "All major population centers have received surrender terms." "And their response?" "Silence, Archon. For the first time, complete silence." That silence unnerved Veltharion more than any defiance. He'd learned to distrust human quietness. On Earth, the silence was strategic. Every facility, every bunker, every resistance cell had gone dark. Not from fear but from coordination. In the Antarctic bunker, now operating on geothermal power and analog systems, Marcus stood before a wall map of Earth covered in red markers. Each represented a Crinthac's vessel, its position tracked by amateur astronomers with telescopes. "They're in formation," Sarah reported, studying the pattern through binoculars and handwritten calculations. "Classic siege deployment, blockade positions covering every major launch facility." "Classic means predictable," Marcus noted. "Kenji, status on the ensemble network?" "Through crystal radio distorted by atmospheric interference. Online. All 73 nodes responding." General, if we do this, there's no going back. The power surge will kill the quantum entanglement permanently. One shot. Then we make it count. Priya? From Mumbai, her voice crackled through. Paradox bombs are ready. Every major city has at least one. They won't destroy ships, but they'll disable AI targeting for approximately 17 seconds. Klaus. My virus is distributed. The moment their systems open to coordinate the attack, it propagates. Won't stop them, but it'll make them hesitate. Diego? You're insane, you know that? The Brazilian's laugh echoed. Ground team's ready. We'll only get one pass. Marcus took a breath. Understand what we're doing here. This plan has a 98% chance of complete failure. We're banking on chaos, on them not expecting coordinated insanity from a fractured species. If I'm wrong, we die either way, Priya interrupted. At least this way we die making them work for it. Right? Marcus checked his watch, an old analog timepiece his grandfather carried in Vietnam. 6 hours until deadline. We hit them in 5. Sarah, activate Project Prometheus. In orbit, Veltharion reviewed targeting data when alarms shrieked across every vessel simultaneously. Energy spike. Kyoentala's voice carried genuine panic. Source: Earth's surface, multiple points, quantum signatures off the scale. 73 locations across Earth erupted with light. Not weapons. Not shields. Sarah's quantum ensemble network, activated in perfect synchronization, created a cascade of entangled particles that painted a message across quantum foam itself. The message wasn't for Earth. Light years away, in a star system the Krinthax had catalogued but never visited, a listening post detected the quantum ripple. The species monitoring it, the Valar Concord, had been watching the galaxy nervously for millennia, knowing the Krinthax Empire expanded inexorably toward their territory. They intercepted Sarah's broadcast. It contained everything: Krinthax ship specifications, tactical doctrine, technological vulnerabilities, psychological profiles. Every byte of data humanity had gathered through blood and desperation, now propagating through quantum entanglement to anyone listening. But more than data, it contained a warning. This is humanity of Earth, Sol system. We are being destroyed by the Krinthax Empire for the crime of existing. They are not invincible. They are not inevitable. We have found their weaknesses. We are dying to prove it. If you're listening, if you're next, learn from our corpse. Make them bleed for every star. The Valar Concord received the message. So did the Thran Assembly. The Morphogenic Collective. 27 civilizations across 3,000 light-years, all previously resigned to eventual Krinthax conquest, suddenly learned that the Empire could be wounded. On the Krinthax flagship, Veltharion understood immediately what had happened. They've weaponized information. They're not trying to save themselves, they're trying to destroy our reputation. Archon, the quantum broadcast is propagating faster than we can contain it. By the time we neutralize Earth, a dozen species will have learned our tactical vulnerabilities. Then we neutralize Earth now. All vessels, open fire. Total sterilization. Leave nothing that could. Wait. Thexalone's interruption was unprecedented. Archon, if we glass the planet now, we prove their message right. We show the galaxy that humanity forced us to commit genocide because they scared us. Veltharion felt the trap snap shut. If he destroyed Earth, he validated everything humanity claimed. If he didn't, he showed weakness. What do you suggest? Surgical strikes. Prove we can eliminate them without total destruction. Demonstrate precision, control, superiority. It was the logical choice. It was the calculated response. Which is why, 5 seconds later, Priya's paradox bombs detonated. Not explosively. Silently. 73 points on Earth's surface broadcast quantum paradoxes directly at the Krinthax battlespheres targeting AIs. The crystalline minds tried to process contradictions specifically designed to exploit their optimized logic. For 17 seconds, 3,000 vessels hung paralyzed while their AI systems rebooted. 17 seconds was enough. Diego Cortez and his team launched from concealed positions. Not missiles but modified mining equipment accelerated by chemical explosives. Crude, stupid, impossible to predict because they were guided by human hands, not AI. They weren't aiming to destroy. They were aiming to tag. 47 mining charges attached to Krinthax vessels, each carrying Klaus's virus in a hardened core. The moment ship systems came back online, they found unexpected data packages adhered to their hulls. The virus activated. It didn't destroy systems. It made them doubt. Every calculation came with a shadow question. But what if I'm wrong? Every tactical decision spawned 1,000 hypothetical alternatives. The virus weaponized the one thing Krinthax technology had optimized away: uncertainty. Ships began firing at projected threats that didn't exist. Navigation systems questioned their coordinates. Weapons targeting developed infinite calibration loops. The perfect geometric formation collapsed into chaos. Impossible. Veltharion roared. They're primitives. They burn chemical fuel. They communicate with sound waves. They're adaptable, Kewentala said quietly. We're not. We spent 12 million years perfecting our systems. They spent 10,000 years learning to survive with broken ones. Marcus watched through binoculars as the orbital fleet descended into confusion. Sarah, how long until they compensate? 30 minutes. Maybe 40 if we're lucky. Klaus's virus is sophisticated, but they'll develop countermeasures. Then we use those 30 minutes. Diego, execute Phase 2. Diego's teams activated the last surprise. Every piece of space junk, every destroyed satellite, every chunk of debris in Earth's orbit suddenly fired crude chemical thrusters. Humanity had turned its orbital graveyard into a minefield. Nothing sophisticated. Nothing the Krinthax couldn't handle individually. But combined with system uncertainty, ships started taking damage from objects they should have easily avoided. Withdraw. Veltharion commanded. Pull back to lunar orbit. Regroup and purge systems. It was the right tactical decision. But Veltharion knew, and his entire fleet knew, that they'd just retreated from a species that still used wheels. On Earth, humanity watched their oppressors flee and allowed themselves one moment of savage joy. We did it, Sarah whispered. We actually did it. We bought time, Marcus corrected. They'll be back angrier and more cautious. But we proved something. To them and to the galaxy. What's that? Kenji asked. That the strongest civilization in history can be hurt by the primitive one. And that changes everything. In the cold of space, Veltharion made a decision that would haunt him. Contact the High Council. Request authorization for unconventional measures. Archon? The humans fight with chaos because it's all they have. Fine. We'll show them what happens when perfection abandons restraint. The war was about to enter its darkest phase. The abyss stares back. The Krinthax High Council convened in a space that existed outside normal reality, a pocket dimension where 12 of the eldest consciousness matrices debated the fate of civilizations. They'd ruled for so long that galaxies had been born and died during their tenure. Elder Nexaval, oldest of the 12, reviewed Veltharion's report with something approaching disbelief. You're requesting authorization to deploy the unmade? The humans have proven resistant to conventional subjugation, Veltharion argued, his projection standing before beings who'd witnessed the birth of stars. They fight with irrationality, weaponized chaos, and they've broadcast our tactical data across quantum networks. 27 civilizations now possess information that could compromise future expansions. And your solution, Nexaval said coldly, is to deploy a weapon we sealed away 4 million years ago because it violated every principle our civilization was built upon? It's the only guaranteed method to what? Prove that humans can force us to abandon our own ethics? They've already won that battle, Veltharion. You just haven't realized it. Another elder, Krydich Solon, materialized. The unmade were created during the Void War. They're designed to fight entities that exist partially outside reality. Using them on biological primitives is absurd. These primitives, Veltharion said with barely controlled rage, have cost us more casualties in 70 hours than we've suffered in 4 million years. They've damaged our reputation, compromised our tactical doctrine, and they did it with chemical explosives and philosophy. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Nexaval spoke. You will not deploy the unmade. Instead, you will do something we haven't had to do in recorded history. You will negotiate. With primitives? With beings who've proven they'd rather die than kneel. There's a difference between conquest and genocide, Archon. We've always chosen conquest. Humanity is forcing us to choose genocide. If we cross that line, what are we? On Earth, Marcus received an unprecedented transmission. Not a demand. Not a threat. An actual diplomatic overture. The message was simple. We wish to discuss terms. The global command network erupted in debate. Half wanted to tell the Krinthax where to shove their terms. The other half recognized this was the closest thing to victory they'd ever achieve. It's a trap, Diego insisted. They're buying time to prepare something worse. Maybe, Sarah conceded. But they're also buying time for us. Every hour they talk is an hour we survive. And an hour our message spreads, Kenji added. General, I'm getting quantum echoes. Other civilizations are responding to our broadcast. The Valor Concord wants to establish secure communications. The Thran Assembly is requesting tactical data. We're not alone anymore. Marcus felt the weight of 8 billion lives pressing down on him. What are they offering? Priya pulled up the decoded transmission. Limited sovereignty. They leave Earth alone but claim Sol System's outer resources. We get to keep our planet but we're confined to it. No space expansion, no colony ships, complete isolation. A cage, Klaus muttered. A survival, the Russian general countered. We can't win this militarily. If they're offering us life. At what cost? Marcus interrupted. We become a museum. A curiosity. Here's the species that stung the mighty Krinthax, now preserved under glass forever. Better than extinction, someone argued. Marcus turned to Sarah. How many civilizations have received our message? Confirmed contact with 41 species. Probable reception by hundreds more. And if we accept Krinthax terms? If we agree to be caged? Sarah understood immediately. Then we prove that resistance is futile. That eventually everyone kneels. But if we refuse? They'll kill us all. Completely. Thoroughly. Leave nothing but a scarred rock as a warning. Marcus closed his eyes, thinking of his daughter in Denver, his grandson who'd never asked to be born into apocalypse. Thinking of 8 billion people who deserve better than to be chess pieces in a cosmic game. No, he said finally. The room erupted in objections. Marcus raised his hand for silence. I'm not saying no to survival. I'm saying no to their terms. Kenji, can you establish communication with the Valor Concord? It'll take everything we have left in the Ensemble network. After this, we're back to radio. Do it. Sarah, compile every piece of Krinthax data we have. Tactical weaknesses, psychological profiles, technological limitations. Everything. General, what are you? We're not just sending a warning anymore. We're starting a revolution. Light years away, the Valor Concord received humanity's second message. This time it wasn't a death scream. It was a battle plan. To all who listen, the Krinthax can be beaten but not by one species alone. We're sharing everything we've learned. Not for revenge, we'll be dead. For victory. Your victory. Build on our corpse. Learn from our mistakes. And when you face them, remember that somewhere, a species of chemical burning primitives made them bleed. We're refusing their terms. We're choosing extinction over submission. Not because we want to die but because some things matter more than survival. Like the knowledge that somewhere, someone will be free because we weren't. This is Earth's last transmission. Make it count. On the Krinthax flagship, Veltharion received notification that humanity had rejected peace terms. They chose death, he said numbly. Why would they choose death? Kewentala pulled up analysis of Earth's final broadcast. Because they're not thinking like individuals surviving. They're thinking like a species winning. By refusing, by dying defiant, they become a symbol. Martyrs that will inspire resistance across the galaxy for millennia. Then we make their death so complete that there's nothing left to inspire anyone. But that proves? I don't care. Veltharion's rage finally broke through 12 million years of calculated composure. They've turned their own extinction into a weapon. Fine. We'll give them the ending they want, but we'll make sure the galaxy understands the cost of defying us. He opened channels to every vessel in the battle sphere. New objective, total planetary sterilization. I want Earth reduced to molten slag. I want every human, every city, every trace of their existence erased. Show the galaxy what happens when primitives forget their place. On Earth, alarms screamed in every bunker. They're charging weapons, Sarah reported, her voice shaking. Planet killer yield. Multiple targeting patterns. They're going to cook the entire surface. Marcus looked at his team, these brilliant, crazy, beautiful humans who'd fought with everything they had. Anyone want to change their vote? We can still accept terms. Diego laughed. And miss the finale? Hell no. Priya nodded. My daughter died before she could make a difference. At least I got to make one. Klaus cracked his knuckles. I've got one more virus to deploy. Won't save us but it'll give them nightmares. Kenji smiled sadly. The Ensemble is dead anyway. Might as well go out in style. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. We got our message out. That's more than we had 3 days ago. Marcus felt pride swell in his chest, the kind that comes from standing with giants. Then let's show them how humans die. Kenji, activate every cultural database we have. Music, art, literature, science, flooded into the quantum foam. If we're going extinct, we're going out loud. With pleasure, General. As Krinthax weapons charged, Earth began broadcasting everything that made humanity human. Beethoven's Ninth, Da Vinci's paintings, Shakespeare's plays, Einstein's equations, every Nobel Prize lecture, every Olympic record, every love letter written, every joke told, every child's drawing. The quantum networks lit up with humanity's soul, transmitted to anyone listening across the galaxy. Weapons at 80% charge, Kawantala reported. Targeting locked. Archon last chance to reconsider. Veltharion stared at Earth, this insignificant blue marble that had cost him everything. Fire. But at that moment something unprecedented occurred. The Ansible network, supposedly dead, pulsed once more. Not with data. With something else. Every Krinthax ship simultaneously received a quantum-entangled signal that bypassed their firewalls, their security, their very consciousness protocols. It was the collective defiance of 8 billion humans, compressed into a single quantum state and forced directly into Krinthax neural matrices. For one eternal second, every Krinthax entity in the Sol system felt what it meant to be human. The fear, the hope, the rage, the love, the desperate beautiful madness of existence without certainty. It lasted 1 second. Changed everything. Legacy. The weapons didn't fire. Not because they malfunctioned. Not because of technical failure. They didn't fire because for one quantum-entangled second, 3,000 Krinthax vessels experienced something their species had optimized away 12 million years ago. Empathy. Veltharion staggered in his command chamber, his crystalline consciousness reeling from the echo of 8 billion minds simultaneously screaming defiance and hope and terror and love. He'd felt a mother in Lagos shielding her children. A teenager in Beijing writing poetry about stars they'd never reach. An elderly man in New York remembering his deceased wife. He'd felt humanity's chaos not as weakness, but as strength. The strength to love without logic, to hope without evidence, to fight without chance of victory. Archon? Kawantala's voice carried the same tremor. She'd felt it too. They all had. Stand down weapons, Veltharion whispered. Archon, the High Council ordered. Stand down weapons. Across the battle sphere, 3,000 vessels powered down their planet killers. Not in obedience but in horror at what they'd almost done. On Earth, Marcus watched readouts in disbelief. They're standing down? Sarah confirmed that. Sarah checked and rechecked her instruments. Confirmed. All weapon signatures decreasing. They're not firing. Kenji, what did you do? The young scientist looked as shocked as everyone else. I don't know. The Ansible was dead. That final pulse, it shouldn't have been possible. Unless what? Unless humanity itself became the signal. 8 billion people, all thinking the same defiant thought at the same moment, created a quantum resonance strong enough to. He stopped, awed by the implications. We weaponized our collective consciousness. Diego laughed, slightly hysterical. We made them feel us? That's what stopped them. More than that, Priya said, analyzing the quantum echoes. We made them understand us. For 1 second, the most logical species in the universe felt what it's like to be human. And they couldn't pull the trigger. On the Krinthax flagship, the High Council's channel opened. Elder Nexaval's voice resonated with something the Krinthax rarely expressed. Uncertainty. Veltharion report. Why haven't you fired? Because, Elder, I just experienced something that changes our entire philosophical framework. These humans, they're not broken. They're not inefficient. They're evolved for chaos. While we optimized for predictability, they evolved for adaptation. While we perfected our systems, they perfected their resilience. This is irrelevant too. It's entirely relevant. Veltharion's outburst would have been unthinkable hours ago. We're about to destroy the only species in the galaxy that has something we lost. The ability to thrive in uncertainty. They don't just survive chaos, they create beauty from it, meaning from it, strength from it. Another elder interrupted, you're suggesting we spare them? After they've cost us. After they've taught us something we needed to learn. That perfection isn't the only path to survival. That sometimes the strongest response isn't calculated efficiency, but passionate defiance. The council chamber fell silent. Finally Nexaval spoke. This is unprecedented. We need time to process the data they transmitted. Veltharion, maintain blockade but cease hostilities. We're calling a formal inquiry into the philosophical implications of human consciousness. On Earth, the reprieve was met with cautious celebration. Humanity hadn't won. But they hadn't lost either. Marcus addressed the global network. I don't know what happens next, but we're still here. And every second we survive, our message spreads further. He was right. Across the galaxy, 41 civilizations analyzed the data Earth had transmitted. The Valar Concord began developing their own paradox weapons. The Thran Assembly studied human tactical doctrine. The Morphogenic Collective incorporated chaos theory into their defense planning. The Krinthax Empire, for the first time in 12 million years, faced the possibility of coordinated resistance. 3 months later, the Krinthax High Council delivered their verdict. It was transmitted to Earth but also to every known civilization in the galaxy. To humanity of Sol 3, your species has demonstrated capabilities that challenge our fundamental assumptions about civilization development. While your technology remains primitive, your cognitive adaptability represents a potentially valuable addition to galactic diversity. We hereby grant Earth provisional independence under the following terms. Sol system remains human sovereign territory. You will not expand beyond your star system for 1,000 years. During this time, you may develop your technology, but aggressive expansion will result in immediate intervention. In exchange, we will provide limited technological support to help you survive. Not because we fear you, but because we've realized that biodiversity applies to consciousness as well as biology. The galaxy needs chaos as much as it needs order. To the species observing this transmission, let Earth serve as an example. The Krinthax Empire is not weakened by this decision. We are evolved by it. We conquered the galaxy through inevitability. We will now maintain it through wisdom. This is not surrender. This is adaptation. Marcus read the terms with mixed feelings. 1,000 years in a cage. But at least it's a cage we chose. We did more than that, Sarah said, pulling up quantum network activity. Look at the intercepts. 17 species have already formed a defensive alliance. 23 more are sharing anti-Krinthax technology. We didn't just save ourselves. We started a revolution. The Krinthax won't let that stand, Priya warned. No, Kenji agreed. But now they have to fight smart species using our tactics. They have to face enemies who fight with chaos, not just efficiency. We changed the game. Diego poured drinks for everyone, actual alcohol liberated from some government stockpile. To humanity, the species too stupid to know when we're beaten. They raised their glasses, these survivors who'd faced gods and made them blink. What happens now? Someone asked. Marcus looked out at the night sky, where Krinthax vessels still orbited but no longer as executioners. Now we rebuild. We adapt. We prepare. Because in 1,000 years we're getting off this rock. And when we do, the galaxy is going to meet humans who had a millennium to study Krinthax tactics, learn from 41 allied species, and perfect the art of strategic chaos. They're going to regret sparing us, Sarah said. Yes, Marcus agreed. Yes, they are. Across the galaxy, Veltharion contemplated the human problem. The High Council believed they'd contained it. But he'd felt humanity's consciousness. He knew the truth. You couldn't contain chaos. You could only hope to survive it. Kiwantala, begin long-term monitoring of Sol system. I want daily reports on human technological development. Archon, they're confined to one star system. What threat could they possibly? They weaponized philosophy, turned debris into minefields, and forced the most powerful empire in history to question its own existence. If we let them develop for 1,000 years. Veltharion's tone carried something new, respect. In 1,000 years they won't be primitives anymore. They'll be something we've never encountered. What's that, Archon? Equals. On Earth, in a small apartment in Tokyo, Kenji wrote code for humanity's first post-war project. A quantum ensemble that could reach across the galaxy, not for war but for connection. In Mumbai, Priya taught a new generation of programmers the art of paradox warfare. In Sao Paulo, Diego trained guerrilla forces for battles 1,000 years away. In Berlin, Klaus's AI research laid groundwork for entities that could think in chaos. And in Antarctica, Marcus stood alone under stars that still held Krinthax vessels and smiled. You wanted to conquer us, he whispered to the cosmos. Instead you gave us purpose. Time. And the knowledge that we can make gods bleed. Thank you for the gift of underestimating us. The strongest civilization in galactic history had been defeated by primitive humans. Not through military victory. Not through technological superiority. But through the simple, stubborn, beautiful human refusal to accept that anything was truly inevitable. The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity? Humanity was just getting started.